Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Adam Withrow, correct?
That's correct.
And Adam is a candidate for Congress in the state of Colorado, and he's going to be talking about the migrant crisis. So I've done quite a number of interviews with congressional candidates in sanctuary states. How bad is the migrant crisis in Colorado?
Where I live, there is no crisis. You see, I live in the city of Pueblo, and actually where I'm sitting right now, up until about 150 years ago, I would be in Mexico, where I live. I am south of the border because the United States-Mexico border used to be the Arkansas River. And so the city I live in is got an ethnic plurality of people of what you'd call American descent, I'd suppose, or white people and people who are Chicano or Mexican. But the thing here is that a lot of those people were here already when the border moved. Their families didn't move, just the border did. And so in the city I live in and in the region that I live in, you wouldn't really be able to tell one way or the other. It's not as though you can look at somebody and know where they were born. And even here, say, when I go to work, I work with a man who was born in Mexico, but he's a United States citizen and he has been since before I was born. So he speaks with an accent and speaks fluent Spanish, but the fact is he's just as American as I am. And so in this part of the state, there is no crisis.
Okay, but in other parts of the state,
It's highly overblown, honestly. We have to kind of look and see what are the causes of this? Why? They're making a big deal about Venezuelans in Aurora, for example.
okay,
So we take that and say, okay, so there's some, do you know why? Because we've been intervening in the affairs of Venezuela since 1895. And we've been trying to establish a puppet government there. Now it's been 130 years and we failed repeatedly. We come in there and we attempt to topple their government. We meddle with their elections. We intervene in their economy. We sanction their citizens. And then we send them a message as though we live in paradise. We live in heaven. So then there are people there who are convinced that maybe it's true. They start to hate their government. And who's telling them to hate it? The Americans. They feel as though their system cannot be changed. And at the same time, somebody's telling them that it's better here. So what they do is they believe us and they come here and they try to start lives. And that's happening all around the world, you know, with what's going on Ukraine and Russia. And now we're seeing more and more refugees from the Ukraine because
mhm.
they see we've got them locked in an unwinnable battle against a nation much larger than their own with a wishy-washy backup of support. They're watching their towns be blown to bits. And what they're doing is saying, well, the Americans say it's so great. The Americans say they're so free. Let's just go over there and start new lives. And next, we're going to see waves of Palestinian immigrants because Gaza's been flattened. The settlements continue to expand in the West Bank. So now people are going to flee the Palestinian areas. We have a land invasion going on in Jordan right now. So we can expect quite soon in the coming years for there to be a new wave of refugees from Jordan. We're seeing more bombing in Syria. We've armed the rebels there, and we're telling them that our way is better than theirs. They found they could not defeat their government, and so those people will also leave and come here, where we are the number one creators of those who want to come and be here, those who want to start new lives in the US. It's our fault.
So these people who are living in the countries that you just outlined, are they coming here legally or are they illegal migrants coming into this country?
It's a little bit of both in any of those cases, you know. We have our legal avenues to get here, but once we've convinced people that this is heaven on earth, they don't care how. If they can't find one way, they'll find another. We've created the conditions for them to flee, and so they will flee. We've convinced them that those problems are not here, And so if they can't find their way legally, they'll find their way illegally.
So the countries that you outlined, are they migrating to other countries or just to the United States?
And in a lot of cases, when you go to the Middle East, for example, there's much more land to run across there. And so people are heading into adjacent nations that they feel safe in, or they're heading west into Europe, northwest into Europe to get away. But then a lot of them, because of that image that we portray, a lot of the people are coming here and will
So
be.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and they will continue to. If we keep meddling in the affairs of other countries, and if we keep pretending like we're so much better, then we're going to keep attracting people to come here.
And you think that's the main cause of all of the migration into this country right now?
Absolutely. What else could it be?
Okay. Wow. So, um, Donald Trump wants to close the borders. What do you think?
I think that's completely foolish. It won't stop a thing. You build a wall, we'll dig a tunnel under it, is what people say, or they'll cut holes in it. As long as we keep creating conditions that are unlivable in the places that people come from, they will find a way here. If they can't come on the land border, they'll take the water. There is nothing that we can do. Closing the border is going to make it more expensive to import the things we import. It's going to cut down on, it's going to make it harder to export things away. So it's going to disrupt commerce quite a bit, but it's not going to disrupt migration hardly at all.
Okay, so if we're the perpetrator of all this misery, why would somebody who is facing this misery because of the United States, why would they want to come to the United States and not a different country?
Because we did two things. One, we told them their home was their enemy. And two, we told them we have the solutions to their problems. We said, hey, if you make your country more like ours, then your country will be a better place to live. And then they said, hey, this struggle is too big. We'll never defeat them. They'll kill us if we try. So we're just going to come over there and live with you. We've made ourselves remember that for all the misery we create, we still call ourselves the good guys when we do it.
Right. And do you think we're the good guys?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think that we operate for the advantage of our wealthiest people. We operate for the advantage of our military contractors. We operate for the advantage of our largest corporations. We do not operate for the advantage of us, the people. So from time to time, the interests of the military industrial complex and the people align. From time to time, the interests of the largest corporations and the rest of us align. And when that happens, we become the good guys. But a lot of the time they don't. It doesn't matter for us. When we attacked Venezuela, as an example, when we try to undermine their government, what does that do for us? For me, I'm not in the oil business. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a normal American. What does all of our intervention down there do for me? Nothing at all. What does it do if you're in the oil business? Well, we know they've got colossal offshore reserves. We know that if we had a puppet government down there, then our corporations would have first access to that oil. We'd be able to direct their commerce and all of that. But what will that do for me, even if it happens? As a normal citizen, nothing at all. I have no stake. I'm not interested in preventing South America from being South America because it won't do a thing for me. So in a case like that, we're not really the good guys, you know? And it goes like that around the world, all of these things. When we play sphere of influence politics with Ukraine as though it's still the Cold War, so that our corporations have access to the uranium, to the iron, to the wheat, to all of that, what does that do for me? We could have granted the Ukrainians neutrality like the Swiss have. Let them sit between East and West and develop their own resources. We could have prevented this entire war, but we didn't, because there are certain interests in the US that want access to that stuff, that they want to be able to develop it. And there are certain interests in Russia that want to do the same thing. And so we've destroyed a quarter of that country without setting foot on it, by pushing them into a conflict that is not in their best interest. And it's not in our best interest either. Again, there are a few people in the United States that will benefit immensely from that. And the rest of us, what have we seen? We've seen the price of oil go up, the price of food go up. We've seen the price of natural gas go up. And we've seen it all so that our corporate interests can compete with Russian corporate interests over resources that will never make it home to us, no matter who wins.
And the most important thing is we're on the brink of a nuclear war because of it.
We are. It is incredibly dangerous, and spreading
Right.
that conflict to the Middle East as we have, and continuing to pump weapons into that situation as well, when we know that Iran and Russia and China are friends, and we know that we are stimulating conflict on their front door, so that it's not only that it's going to pose migration, it may start raining missiles on us.
Hmm.
And it's like, what do we stand to gain from all this? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing at all.
And so when you go around and you talk to your constituents, what do they say about all of the turmoil that's happening now?
It depends on how much TV they watch. It depends on how much they think for themselves. It depends on how much they are racists or xenophobes, you know? It depends on whether they're religious fundamentalists or not. A lot of people are none of the above, and they say this is foolish. Nobody stands to gain anything from this except for our military contractors
Mhm.
and our oil and gas companies, our gigantic food conglomerates, you know, all of them are just waiting. They're chomping at the bit. Lockheed Martin is already cashing in, you know what I mean? And so on. The big military contractors are making the big bucks off of this, while the rest of us are paying for it in taxes.
Okay.
We're asking ourselves, so when do we see a return on this? When do things get better? If you find somebody who's an extreme racist, they say, well, Ukrainians are more European than Russians. What? That's foolish. You find them say, well, Venezuelans, what do they know? They're from there. What? You say all of that. You say, well, Israelis are lighter skinned than Palestinians and Jordanians, and on so on and so on and so on. They're
Mhm.
not looking at it the correct way. They see death as entertainment. They see war as glory, especially because they're not going to fight it, you know?
You know, when I listen to what's going on, and I get a lot of my information from alternative media, and everything reminds me of the very beginning of the movie Gone with the Wind, when the Southerners were like so gung ho and so, they want to fight the war and they think they'll be back in a month. Well, guess what, guys? We might be exterminated today.
Yes, and that is a very realistic problem. And I see, again, I see that the issues that we have with migrations are so directly tied to that, you know. Again, I don't think building a wall is going to help us. I don't think mass deportation is going to help us, because we're going to keep causing the problems that send these people here. We're going to keep saying that we're the shining city on the hill. You send somebody away, they'll find a way back. If you stop messing with their country, they'll worry about where they come from. They'll stay home and try to make it better. They'll do their part. If you instead, you're trying to meddle with their elections, meddle with their economies, assassinate their leaders, send a bunch of guns down there, commit covert operations to take control of their resources, we're just gonna keep bringing people here, because that whole time we're saying, and don't worry, we are the good guys. We live the life of peace and prosperity. We want to bring peace and prosperity to you through death and destruction. And when we do that, they say, well, your death and destruction is here and your peace and prosperity is there. We're going to where the peace and prosperity already are. And that's just what they do.
So, what propelled you to get involved in politics and run for Congress?
Well, you look at these people, you watch our Congress, and it is a complete joke. They get almost no work done. Anything that matters, they kick the can down the road. They provide solutions to problems that don't always exist, and their solutions are always very bad. They deal their good friends and associates in, they deal in their donors, and they make sure trillions of federal dollars flow to the same people who have been collecting them for the last 60, 70 years. And all this time, they're spending us broke. They're spending our government broke into the pockets of people who already have more than enough money and who do nothing with it. I watch our people in the race that I'm in. I watch my competitors, and they're driven by millions of dollars. Don't get me wrong, I'm gonna lose this. You know what I mean? I won't be the next representative for our district, but I'll run again. Because look at these fools. Look at our Congress. Look at the news, what they call news that comes out of there. Look what they call the big issues as they walk us off a cliff into nuclear Armageddon, as they
Mhm.
walk us off a cliff into absolute poverty. And what do we get? You know, and so for that reason, I had to run. I've sat on the sidelines. People have asked me for the last 15 years. They said, you need to do this. Stop. You're a good worker. So what? Go and do what you're supposed to do. And this is what it is.
So when you go around and you talk to your constituents, what do they tell you? Do they echo exactly what you've said over the last 15 minutes?
Yes. And resoundingly. And not everybody. A lot of people want to tell me exactly what the TV tells them to say. And when they do, I say, well, let's take some time and let's think about reality. And some people come around and they say, wow, you're right. This is the truth. And some people say, my TV and those billions of dollars and those millions of dollars of these other candidates disagree with you. And I say, well, then you know you shouldn't vote for me.
Wow. Wow. So is this your first run?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And is it challenging? Are you having fun? What's it like?
I am enjoying it so much because everywhere I go, when I see people, I get to walk into the room. You know, I originally started this race as a Democrat. And so I would, and that didn't last long, but I would go to the room with our Democrat who's raised millions of dollars from all around the country, and very little here in our district. And I'd get to sit here and we would both be speaking on the same stage. And I'd watch him just open his mouth and say nothing at all, and people would get bored. And then I would come up and we'd talk about what it's like to be here, what it's like to be alive. And they would laugh at him so hard, and the room would erupt with applause, and people would whistle and cheer. And I thought, wow, look at that. And this fool with his millions of dollars is going to buy himself federal office, and I'm going to lose hard. I'm going to get less than 1% of the vote. But everywhere I go, the people would much rather have me as their representative than him. So it's been a lot of fun.
You never know, you might win.
The thing is that I don't have those millions, so there are no commercials for me. You're not going to have, your YouTube is not going to be interrupted by an ad for me. And if for people who use Facebook, they're not going to see an ad for me. And on television, I'll be on the news with the interview they do, but there won't be any commercials. And so a lot of people don't actually know that I'm even there. They'll get the ballot, they'll see Adam Withrow on it, and they'll say, well, I don't know who that is. and they'll vote for the Democrat or the Republican like they always do.
Mm-hmm.
So
So what party are you running on?
this is the Unity Party of Colorado.
Okay.
We're not really the way the Unity Party works. It means you're sick of the Democrats, you're sick of the Republicans,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to have to. Why I left the Democrats is because honestly, so much of what they have to say, I think, is total garbage. And it's the same with Republicans, you know. I can't do either one. And when I go to the Unity Party, they say you take your own views. We've got hardcore conservatives, we've got bleeding hard liberals, and it doesn't matter at all because the party itself is just a group of people who say the Democrats have failed, the Republicans have failed. We've given them power for over 100 years, and this is where they've gotten us. We have to stop voting for them. We have to stop putting them in office. And so that's what it is. As far as the platform, mine is mine, and our other candidates have their own ways of looking at things. We do not agree with each other on anything a lot of the time. The only thing we agree on is that it's time to get away from this. You know, the multi-billion-dollar political party machines have done nothing for us. And we've had a chance. The Democrats have had their trifectas where they had the presidency, the House, and the Senate, and they didn't do anything that they promised they would. The Republicans have had their trifectas. They had the Senate, the House, and the presidency, and most recently in 2016, 2017, they didn't come through on nearly anything. And still they tried to blame each other. Even when they had the majority enough to get federal business done, they didn't do it because they want to campaign on it next time. And if they say they solved the problem, now they've got to come up with something else.
Hmm.
Right.
So, your district, where are you exactly running?
Colorado's third congressional district is actually the entire west end of the state of Colorado. It's almost 1/3 of the landmass of the state. Because even though your districts have the same number of people, this whole end of the state, there aren't any real cities. You know, I live in the biggest one. We've only got 100,000 people. The next biggest one is only 60,000 people. And then the other 600,000 people in the district are spread out over half of the land in the state. So
Wow. So, if somebody wants to volunteer for your campaign or give you a donation, how could they do so?
my website is withrowcd3.com, but I think that money in politics is disgusting. So when people want to donate, they ask me, why should I donate to you? I say you should not, because votes are not for sale. Money in politics is disgusting, so I don't want to use it. If I can't be elected without millions of dollars, that tells me something about our system that makes me not want to play the game. And so I run basically a $0 campaign.
So, how are you running it?
Well, somehow you found me, and somehow CBS found me, and somehow the USA Today found me, and somehow so many of them have found me. Somehow hundreds and thousands of people around here have found me. And it just happens when you file. They show you the way becomes open to you. You know, you don't really have to. And I don't want to interrupt people's news broadcast, or I don't want to interrupt people's YouTube video. I don't want to interrupt their lives with my garbage. If they're interested, they'll find out. If they're not, it's okay. I'm just here to offer a choice. And victory to me is that I'll be on the ballot in November. So people who say these Democrats are fools, these Republicans are fools, they have someone to vote for.
That's a very unique way of looking at it. So, I'll be watching your quest on election night. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. You've been listening to Adam Withrow. And if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Adam, you have a very refreshing attitude towards politics. It's very interesting. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a wonderful day.